Man, somebody come get this fake Don King looking son of a bitch. See, this is why the conservative that is just so happen to be black is so dangerous and threatens these people's narrative. It's out in the open, people, that these people are clear about their objective. It's clear about their agenda is to destroy this country and everything in it. They hate this country. They hate the Constitution, and it's out in the open. Y'all are going to understand why I have such a deep disdain for these social justice warriors. They are literally the people that are invested. They're the talking heads for white supremacy. They're the ones that are keeping the wedge in between us and our social relations when it comes to this country. We got this clown up to the chopping board, this fake Don King looking joker. You know, excuse me if I mess up his name. I could care less if I mess his name up. Elie Mystal is a correspondent for The Nation, labeled the Constitution trash in an appearance on ABC's The View. Now, we already know that The View is just, it's a hot mess. They should probably end the show. All of them on there are biased. They're all liberals and pro-regressives on the show. As you guys know, the controversy of just Whoopi Goldberg not too long ago being anti-Semitic towards Jewish people and saying that it wasn't about race and whatnot. So they got a lot of controversy going on right now. So they bring this clown on here. And personally, I think he's just grifting. He's trying to sell his pro-black KKK collective groupthink book that is nonsensical, and the things he said was so disrespectful to refer to the Constitution as trash. The same Constitution that literally led to the abolishment of slavery, being the United States being the first country to abolish slavery. That document, the document where they were able to bring a union together, which is now called the United States of America. The same Constitution right now that gives him the freedom of speech, gives him the ability, right, this capitalist society that he hates so much, giving him the ability to come on this show and grift to sell some more of his whack book to more black KKK collective groupthink social justice warrior Eeyores of color. I'll digress. So he goes on to The View. I'm going to play the video. I don't want to go too long into it, and I'm going to break it down as we go.
Let's talk about your new book. It's called Allow Me to Retort, A Black Guy's Guide to the Constitution. Tell us about the book and why you wanted to write it.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do with this book is explain in layman's terms what Republicans are doing to the law. Because I honestly believe that if everybody understood it, they'd be as outraged as I am about it, and they'd be willing to do something about it. Look, folks, the law is complicated. I'm not going to lie about that. But it's not beyond the reach of most literate people, all right? It's not sending a rocket to Mars and making it land just so. So it doesn't, right? You can read. You can understand the laws that govern this country, and you can understand how Republicans are obviously trying to manipulate those laws to take away the rights of minorities, women, the LGBTQ community. You can see it all, and I try to...
I have to pause it. The Republicans are not trying to take the rights of anybody that's minority, no women, and definitely not that rainbow community, which is something that I have an issue with when it comes to the Republican Party. But I'll digress.
Explain it all in ways that people can understand so that we can fight them.
I have to tell you, I loved this book so very much. The first chapter, Canceling Trash People is not a constitutional crisis.
She didn't read that book.
Chapter 9, The Taking of Black Land, was another favorite of mine, and Reverse Racism is not a thing.
Reverse racism is a thing. He's a racist, and along with the rest of these social justice, black KKK collective groupthink. And also, he's all about cancel culture, which is completely goes against the Constitution with people's freedom of speech. Again, it's an oxymoron with these people. You can't keep up with this liberal logic. You'll be doing cartwheels for days in your mind.
I just think it's fantastic.
So I live in Florida, so I'm like on ground zero of where all of this is happening. I'm out of my mind about the bills banning conversations about race and ethnicity and LGBTQ, just even mentioning gender identity in primary schools. But some will...
I got to stop. I'm on ground zero. I'm a Floridian. I'm right here with one of the greatest governors that we've had, Ron DeSantis, and no one is trying to ban or take anybody of conversations, right, is what she said. They're trying to keep out those indoctrinating conversations out of the school. Parents like me, not just white folks, black, Hispanic, indigenous, Asian, parents just like me of all shades of color, we don't want our kids subjected to sexuality at school. We don't want them. I just did a piece. I'll put it up so you can look at it on a social justice warrior teaching a teacher indoctrinating kids, saying that because of the color of your skin, there is people out here to say you can't do something. Who? Who are these people? Who are the ones that's telling these people? So that is what Florida's doing. They're maintaining our liberties, and they're keeping out the nonsense, the nonsensical indoctrination. No one is trying to keep anybody from talking about anything besides the things that shouldn't be in the schools. I did another piece, which I'll put up in so you can click on it, with Moms for Liberty, a chapter, the head of the chapter here in the county where I live. We went over so much stuff that was found into these schools. We're talking about elementary and middle school. So what Ron DeSantis is doing is awesome. It's so bad that I had to blur it out in order to even put it on YouTube. So, get the logic of that. I have to blur out content in order to put it on social media, but it's okay for it to be in elementary schools and middle schools. Make it make sense. That's what we're banning. We don't want the indoctrination. We don't want this sexuality agenda pushed onto our children. They're not looking at people as race. They just want to be kids, and they should be teaching the curriculum, mathematics, writing, reading, because there's a lot of kids that can't even do it at the grade level that they should be. Instead, you guys want to keep hyper-focusing on this. I'll digress.
We'll say, okay, so are you arguing for throwing out the Constitution? Should the Constitution be thrown out? What do we do? Is it a living document? Or is it a sacred document?
It's certainly not sacred, all right? Let's start there. The
It
Constitution
is sacred.
is kind of trash. Now, let's just...
It is sacred. I think it was over 300-something people died to free this country. The Constitution literally was the emancipation of slavery. It literally is freed slaves. It united a state. It made it the first country in the universe to abolish slavery. It is sacred. It's the same rights that he uses till this day. See, these social justice warriors, they hate capitalism. They hate this country so much. They want to burn everything down to the ashes and get rid of the Constitution. It's the same one that gives him the freedom of speech to say the nonsense that he says. It's the same country, same Constitution, the same rights that he grifts to sell his book to more Eeyores of color that have grievances and cry and complain with their pessimism about this country and how much it's already progressed so that he can make money under capitalism. I'll digress.
Talk as adults for a
What
second.
did you say? It's what?
It's kind of trash. It was written by slavers and colonists and white people who were willing to make deals with slavers and colonists.
Boom, let me stop it right there. He's saying it's white supremacists, colonists, and people that are willing to make deals. The thing with these social justice warriors, their go-to when it comes to the Constitution, they always say, it wasn't written for black folks. The Constitution wasn't written for white folks, black folks, Hispanics, indigenous. It was written for our God-given right on this earth, the rights that we should have, that big government shouldn't be all up in our stuff, that people should maintain their rights. That it was written for that. It wasn't written for a specific group based off the color of their skin. But these people walk around with this cloak over their eyes. It's exhausting. Let's talk about it because they always bring up the 3/5 argument. Let's go to it. It's a simple search. Go to Wikipedia. 3/5 compromise. Let's break it down. The 3/5 compromise was an agreement reached during the 1787 United States Constitution Convention over the counting of slaves in determining the state's total population. Basically, what they're saying, it was a census. It was counting the total population of the states, right? Reason being, that's how they were able to determine how many seats they would have for the House of Representatives, which go as I go on. This count would determine the number of seats in the House of Representatives and how much each state would pay in taxes. So what that means is based off the total census of the count of the population from the North and the South with states that had slaves, they realized that there was an advantage. People that owned slaves had an advantage, right? So they somewhat was trying to manipulate, manipulate the system by saying, okay, those that have the slaves, we're going to count that population as 3/5. Slaves are going to be counted as 3/5, right? Nowhere in there does it say they're not human in the Constitution. Show me where it says that black folks ain't human. Well, the reason why they said that they're going to count it as 3/5 is because people in the South realized, well, we'll just buy more slaves and that'll bring up our census, our count, which would give us an advantage to have more representatives in the House of Representatives, which gave them advantage with electoral votes, so that it was all about power and expansion. So they said, well, we'll just buy more slaves, boost up our count, we'll have more of an advantage, so we can get people in there that are all about pro-slavery. So they said, no. In order for us to come to an agreement, we'll bargain with them so that we can come together and make this a union, make this the United States. So what we'll do, we'll bargain with you. That bargaining he's talking about, we'll bargain with you, but your slaves are counted as 3/5. 3/5. And I'll go on. So it'll prove my point, too, to destroy these social justice warriors. The compromise counted 3/5 of each state's slave population towards that state's total population for the purpose of apportioning the House of Representatives. Even though slaves were denied voting rights, this gave southern states a third more representatives and a third more presidential electoral votes than if slaves had not been counted. Free blacks, remember, free blacks and indentured servants were not subjected to the compromise, and each was counted as one full person for representation. It was a strategy. It was like, all right, if we're ever going to be able to create this union so that we can have in the United States of America, we're going to have to do something that is very difficult, and we're going to have to try to bargain with. The country was so separated, we're going to have to try to bargain with these people. So we'll try to come to an agreement so that we can make this bond. We can bond this and make this the United States. We'll come to an agreement, but we're going to, in order for us to do this, we want to count these the slaves as 3/5. Make no mistake about it, people in the North were trying to abolish slavery. They wanted to end it. By doing this, it leveled the playing field, because the people in the South wanted to expand. They wanted to keep slavery, and by them having slaves over people that didn't have slaves, right? People in the North had free black folks. They had indentured servants that they were free. They didn't have slaves. The population was about even. So that the people in the South said, well, we'll just go out and buy more slaves, and that'll give us our advantage. So it was all about power and expansion. So that's what the 3/5 argument is all about. It didn't say that black folks is 3/5 of the human. And nowhere in there it says that they're not human. So this is why I have a deep disdain with these social justice warriors. But what does Frederick Douglass say? What does Frederick Douglass say? Now take the Constitution according to its plain reading, and I defy the presentation of a single pro-slavery clause in it. On the other hand, it will be found to contain principles and purposes entirely hostile to the existence of slavery. And this is why they don't like Frederick Douglass, and because he was conservative. We all sound the same. My goodness, man. Here's another one, and then I'm going to move on. Interpreted as it ought to be, interpreted, the Constitution is a glorious liberty document. This is coming from somebody that literally was a slave the first half of his life. 20 years of his life, he was a slave. He became a very brilliant man. He was a very intelligent man. Brilliant. He even says it himself, that the Constitution, it was straight up anti-slavery. So this is why I have a deep disdain for these people. The Constitution was the beginning of humanity, a great document to show the rest of the world this country is going to be free. It's going to unite, and if the union has come together, it's going to unite as the United States of America, and which was the first country to abolish slavery throughout the entire universe, the whole world, literally. And this is why we have the country that we have today. This is why I have a deep disdain for these people. They don't love this country. They hate white folks, and it's clear. It's in their literature. It's in the way that they think and the things that they say. They literally go on national TV professing how much they hate the country. So, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I don't want this video to be long. I think I made my points as I went along breaking it down. This is why they don't like the conservative that is black. This is why they don't like Frederick Douglass. This is why they don't like Booker T. Washington, right? Because they even said that the Constitution was an anti-slave document. That it's literally, it's a document that we have our God-given rights as humans to have. We should have minimal government, minimal, and low taxes. I mean, dude, they're trying to rip it apart and take it. Their claims are so false. No one is trying to take anybody's rights away. Their agenda and the things that they believe is just wrong. And biblically, they go against God's principles. We know there's only two genders. We know that same-sex marriages and having sex with the same sex is an abomination. We know that. We want limited government. We don't want the government coming in. But these are the same people that love welfare, and they cry to the government that we need a reparations and we need affirmative action, which affirmative action discriminates on other people. But that's another video. Man, I'm not going to make it long. With that being said, man, I thank y'all for watching. I have to cut it because I'll get long-winded with this. Man, I'm working on my merchandise site. I appreciate everybody that supports the page, watches, likes, comments. Please subscribe. Man, your boy that's going to keep telling the truth is out. Peace.
Yeah, oi.